Good morning, everyone. This is a historic day for Canadians. Today, we lay the foundations of public pharmacare in Canada, and for the first time in history, we will see the delivery of two major classes of drugs, contraceptives and diabetes medications and products, delivered through our single-payer system. This is the culmination of a dream that began when Tommy Douglas invented healthcare in Saskatchewan in the 1940s. It's the result of decades of hard work by New Democrats and progressive Canadians and allied organizations for years who believe that every Canadian should get access to the prescription medication they need to stay healthy with their health card, not their credit card. Now, the Liberals fought us every step of the way. They resisted, they delayed, they opposed, but New Democrats persisted. And the result is this historic day today. Now, what does this mean for Canadians? It means that a mother who's dropping her 9-year-old diabetic daughter off at school no longer has to worry about her daughter checking her blood sugar levels every hour because she'll have the continuous glucose monitor that she needs. It means that millions of Canadians will have real agency over their reproductive health. It means that this coverage will give people peace of mind. It will give them real health options. It will allow them to keep more of their hard-earned dollars in their pocket, and once fully implemented, public pharmacare will save our system billions of dollars every year. I'm so honored to be here today with our leader, Jagmeet Singh, and my NDP caucus, who were so instrumental in making this day happen. Just 25 NDP MPs did what decades of Liberal broken promises couldn't. We laid the foundation for the beginning of public pharmacare in Canada. I'd like to turn this over now to our leader, Jagmeet Singh.
I want to tell you a little story. When I was just elected as leader, I had a meeting back when we were in the center block, and I met with a young boy and his parents. I think it was his dad. We sat down and he described to me that he had type 1 diabetes, that he had had it since as long as he could remember, and he had to take medication, injections, check his blood just to stay alive. And I could tell he was a pretty precocious young man, a young boy, because he had to deal with this life-threatening illness and he had to be very serious and mature. And when I asked him how that felt, he said, you know what, I'm not worried about it. I can deal with it. I'm not worried about any of that. But I am worried about how much this costs my parents. And I thought, a 10-year-old kid is worried not about this illness, he's worried about being too much of a burden on his parents. And I remember telling that boy, I said, you know what, we're going to fight for you to make sure you don't have to worry about that. Well, today, we can tell that young boy, he's probably a couple years older now, tell him that he does not have to worry about it because everyone in our country will get free diabetes medication. To women who have seen south of the border direct attacks on women's rights, on a women's right to choose, we can say very clearly now that in our country, everyone will have access to free birth control because of New Democrats. This is historic. This is the dream of our party since the conception of our party. And we have fought tirelessly. And I also want to acknowledge, as Don did, everyone that was involved in this, the healthcare activists, the labor activists, New Democrats, progressives, who have fought for decades because they believe fundamentally that our healthcare system should include medication coverage. We have taken that first big step of a national universal pharmacare today. And I also want to be very clear. This is not by coincidence that after 30 years of broken promises, that the Liberals promised us 30 years ago, that it's happening by coincidence now. It is happening not by coincidence, it's happening because New Democrats fought and we forced the government to do this. But I also want to take a moment to reflect on the response of Pierre Poilievre. What did Pierre Poilievre say as soon as this news came out? He said that those people are not worth it. He said to that child and that parent that Don just described, they're not worth it. He said to people, millions of Canadians, that are wondering, can I afford my diabetes medication? He said to every one of them, you're not worth it. He said to women who do not have access to this very important right. Many people live in communities where access to an abortion or the right to choose is not really there. He said to them that getting birth control covered, emergency contraceptive covered, you're not worth it. That's what he said. That's who the Conservatives are. They don't think people are worth it. And I want people to know that. That is their response. The knee-jerk response of the Conservative Party and Pierre Poilievre is to say people are not worth it. Well, we say people are worth it. Every Canadian is worth it. And so we're going to keep on fighting because we believe our healthcare system needs to be there for everyone when they need it. We know that by having access to medication, it's going to save people money. It's going to help our healthcare system so people don't get more sick. It's going to save money for provinces. It's going to save money for the federal government. It's a win for everyone. And so I'm really proud today that we can say that we have moved forward in this significant way. With just 25 MPs, we're able to historically move forward with national universal pharmacare covering birth control and diabetes medication and devices, and we're not stopping there. We're going to keep on fighting for you. Know that that's what you get with 25 of us. Imagine what you can get with more New Democrats. Imagine what you would get with a new Democratic government. I just want to put that to Canadians, that we're going to keep on fighting to make sure people get the help they need. I'll do that again in French, and then I'll take your questions. Donc, aujourd'hui, c'est une journée historique. Je peux dire avec grande fierté que on maintenant va couvrir les médicaments contraceptifs et les médicaments pour les diabétiques à travers le pays gratuit. Ça va être gratuit pour les gens. Ça, c'est une journée historique parce que c'est quelque chose, c'était un rêve de notre parti depuis le début de notre parti d'avoir une assurance médicaments universelle. Donc, je suis tellement fier du travail qu'on a fait. Je veux saluer le travail des syndicats, des militants, des néo-démocrates qui ont toujours se battu pour les gens. Dans un temps où les grandes entreprises pharmaceutiques ont beaucoup de pouvoir, on a dit non, on a dit on est là pour les gens. Et je veux dire et je dois dire que les libéraux ont promis de mettre en œuvre un tel programme depuis 30 ans. Ce n'est pas par hasard qu'aujourd'hui, on a forcé le gouvernement de le faire parce que c'est grâce à nos efforts dans ce gouvernement minoritaire qu'on a obtenu ce gain pour les gens. Je veux aussi dire que les conservateurs ont répondu et Pierre Poilievre a dit que les gens ne vaut la peine d'avoir des accès aux médicaments comme les médicaments diabétiques ou les médicaments contraceptifs. Elle a dit que les gens ne vaut la peine. Et c'est insultant parce que nous ne sommes pas d'accord avec les conservateurs. On pense que les gens méritent d'avoir accès aux médicaments dont ils ont besoin. Donc, on va continuer de se battre pour vous et votre famille. C'est ce qu'on a obtenu avec 25 députés. Imaginez-vous ce qu'on pourrait faire avec plus de néo-démocrates. Merci. With that, I'm going to pass the mic over to my dear friend, representing the CLC, but also our Vice President of Labour for the party, the New Democratic Party nationally, Siobhán Vipond.
It's such an honor to be here because today is a good day, because today is when we lay the foundation for a universal single-payer pharmacare program for Canadians, and that is a good thing. This has been a tough time for our folks. We are in an affordability crisis that is pushing people to make decisions that they should never have to make. A choice between whether they're going to put food on the table, whether they're going to pay their heat bill this month, maybe they're cutting back. They're borrowing money so that they can afford their medications, and that needs to stop. And this is putting us in the right place to make that happen. We are very happy to be standing here at this time. We know that it's taken thousands and thousands of our activists, of workers who have rallied, they have written letters to their MPs, they have met with their MPs to say pharmacare needs to happen. We've been pushing for this for a very long time, and here we are. Because we hear from too many workers about what it means when they don't have access to their medications. And that can change. This isn't how the reality has to be. I had a roommate who, when I was younger, who made decisions around her diabetes of what medications she could afford, not based on what the medical professionals were telling her she should do. And that hasn't changed. It also isn't a unique story to someone young, and things are just getting worse. So now, those choices won't have to be made for Canadians. I also want to mark that this is a good day for gender justice, because now folks will be able to have access to contraception under their own terms. You're not relying on a family member, maybe your partner, so you're going to get confidentiality when you need to access that, and you're going to take away all of those cost barriers, and that is a really good thing. So we will be continuing to help push this further so that it grows, because this is a good thing for Canadians. I also want to mark that this will get through, and it is going to be, the provinces to step up and implement this. And as an Albertan, I have to say I am joining the many voices of unions, of activists and advocates, as well as the Chamber of Commerce of Calgary and Edmonton, to ask Danielle Smith to change her decision on this. This is good for Albertans. This is good for Canadians. And I want to say we recognize why we are here. We are here because of the work that advocates and unions have been doing for decades, but because the NDP listened. And because they're using a minority parliament to make things happen, to make things more affordable for Canadians. So I'm very proud to stand here on this great day, and let's make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep.
Can you please explain, can you elaborate why you think Quebec should be allowed to opt out of the program, but Alberta cannot?
So we have a Sherbrooke Declaration where we made it clear our position around Quebec and the unique nature of Quebec. Quebec also has a hybrid program, so it's a little bit different. But our position is people in Quebec should not be getting any less coverage than people anywhere else across the country. We want to see free birth control for everyone in our country, and we're going to ask Quebec to sit down and negotiate. I think it's really, it's sad and it's disappointing that Premier Legault said no without even looking at the deal, without even looking at the plan. I just want to finish that. I want to say that it's wrong of the Premier to say no to women who want access to birth control, no to kids and families that are struggling with diabetes that don't have full coverage in Quebec. So ultimately, this is going to be a negotiation with provinces, and we want to see a negotiation where everyone gets the highest quality of care and everyone gets the same care, and I don't want Quebec to get less care.
So why is Alberta being treated differently? Sorry, that doesn't explain why Alberta is, from your view, can't opt out, but Quebec can. You're saying Quebec shouldn't opt out, but you're okay with them opting out.
Well, I mean,
can you please explain that?
Yeah, we have a Sherbrooke Declaration in which I invite you to take a look at. We've got a list of ideas and values concerning Quebec specifically, which you can feel free to take a look at. But our principle is this. We know this is going to take negotiations and take working with provinces. When I think about people in our country who don't have access to diabetes medication and how much that hurts them, how many people have to spend thousands of dollars out of pocket because they can't afford to they have no coverage for the diabetes medication or devices that they need. For people who need birth control and can't afford it, who line up at women's clinics for hours to get contraception or birth control medication. I want to say to people across this country, it does not have to be this way. We have now a program in place, soon to be in place, that's going to make sure it's free. Why wouldn't we ensure that everyone in our country has access to free birth control and free diabetes medications?
Somebody will actually get this medication covered. Is it months? Is it years? And is it all Canadians, or will it only be low-income Canadians that will have it covered?
This is for all Canadians. This is for everyone. It's a universal delivery of these two classes of medication, so it's everyone. It's going to be as quickly as provinces can negotiate it. This can happen very rapidly. The money and the investments and the commitments are all going to be there, put in place as soon as possible. So this is something that can happen very, very quickly for provinces that agree. And I would encourage everyone to take advantage of this opportunity. Everyone in this country deserves access to free birth control and free diabetes medication and devices. Let's make it happen.
Est-ce qu'on peut avoir en français votre position? Est-ce que vous acceptez que le Québec et l'Alberta aient un droit de retrait avec pleine compensation? Quelles sont vos positions sur les deux provinces en français, s'il vous plaît?
Ma position, c'est pour les gens qui habitent en Alberta et les gens qui habitent au Québec. Les deux doivent avoir accès aux médicaments dont ils ont besoin. Ils méritent d'avoir les médicaments contraceptifs gratuits. ils méritent d'avoir les médicaments pour les diabétiques gratuits. Ça, c'est notre but. Ça, c'est ce qu'on veut faire. Je trouve ça décevant que le Premier ministre Legault dit non, ferme la porte avant de s'asseoir et discuter comment ça va aider les gens au Québec, parce qu'on sait au Québec, il n'y a pas une couverture parfaite. Il y a des situations où les gens ne peuvent pas se permettre d'acheter les médicaments dont ils ont besoin parce que le système au Québec était avant-gardiste à l'époque, mais c'est imparfait et ça ne fonctionne pour tout le monde. Donc, ce qu'on propose, c'est une façon pour livrer l'aide à tout le monde gratuit concernant les contraceptifs et les médicaments pour les diabétiques. On doit le faire.
That's the program, though. The two
How long it's going to take for this to be implemented, considering you're saying it's all dependent on provinces negotiating deals with the federal government, and so many provinces, well, 2 provinces have come out against it, and no one seems to be jumping into this.
Well, there's going to be a number of provinces you're going to see very soon that will be very excited to jump into this. And this is very similar to how things happen with our healthcare system. Initially, many said no. They said no off the top. And then they started seeing people getting free healthcare in their provinces. And people said, well, if they're going to get free healthcare in that province, why don't we have free healthcare here? Similarly, that's going to happen. We're going to start seeing people get access to free birth control, people getting free access to diabetes medication and devices, and folks saying, well, we should be able to have that here as well. So there are provinces that are going to line up and jump on board with this because it's good. We know that BC already has a free contraceptive or free birth control program. They're going to be one of the first, I'm sure, to get money for this, and that money is going to go back towards improving the healthcare system. We're going to see other provinces come on board as well. We know that Manitoba also campaigned on free contraceptives or free birth control. So there's going to be provinces, absolutely, they're going to be stepping up, and we're going to see this delivered very soon.
Y a-t-il des conditions au retrait du Québec? Y a-t-il des conditions au retrait du Québec?
Dans notre avis, on croit profondément qu'on doit avoir des conditions. Un, on doit suivre les principes de la loi canadienne sur la santé. Ça, c'est clair. Moi, je suis clairement contre la privatisation de notre soin de santé. Donc, je ne veux pas voir aucun sou d'argent public qui va dans les poches des riches PDG. Je suis contre ça et je pense que ça, c'est une condition essentielle avec chaque sou d'argent fédéral dans le domaine, dans le secteur de santé. Et je vois l'impact de la privatisation. Ça a des impacts négatifs sur la santé des gens. Ça coûte trop cher et ça coûte pour les gens.
This legislation only outlines the framework for a program. Are you open to the possibility that we could have a change in government and a pharmacare program is not enshrined in law in this country?
I think this is an important question for people to reflect on. There will be choices moving forward. And there is a choice right now. We've used our power to bring in a national pharmacare framework that's going to include 2 medication classes. It's going to cover birth control and diabetes medication and devices. And then we're going to have an election. And then people have a choice. You've got Liberals who we had to force to make them do this. So if you want to see more pharmacare, you're going to need more New Democrats. It's not going to be Liberals that deliver more of this. And if you want to keep pharmacare, and then there's another choice, the Conservatives, who will take this away from people. Absolutely. They'll take away birth control from women. They'll take away diabetes medication from people who need it. They'll take away the dental care program. Absolutely they will. So this is a choice Canadians will have to make. Once we see millions of seniors, children 18 and under, people living with disabilities who have access to dental care, and now millions of people that will have access to birth control and diabetes medication and devices, people will have to make that choice. Do you want to see that taken away from people, or do you want to see that expanded? New Democrats will expand it, Conservatives will take it away, and Liberals will just drag their feet like they always have.
Why you chose diabetes and contraception?
Do you see any wiggle room in negotiations with provinces, or is it take this plan or leave it?
Well, the plan is pretty straightforward. It's going to cover the medications that I've outlined. So if a province wants that to happen, the money will be there, and we will be able to ensure that everyone in that province gets birth control. If someone wants diabetes medication coverage in their province, the money will be there to make that happen. I would invite provinces to take advantage of that opportunity to cover diabetes medication. I also will put this case to people. I'll put this case to provinces, but to Canadians. I would say, I think the math is very clear, it is much better economically, much more sense to cover someone's insulin cost than the cost of someone who has kidney failure because they don't take insulin and don't treat their diabetes and are on dialysis. I think dialysis for the rest of your life is far more costly for the individual in terms of their time and their health. It's also far more costly to our healthcare system than covering insulin. That's the benefit of this program. It's not only a savings with being able to bulk purchase medication, but it also is a savings because we keep people healthy. New question right there.
Diabetes.
Single payer once during this news conference. Is this legislation single payer or not?
Yes. It's single payer. It specifically indicates single payer. It points to the Canada Health Act numerous times and the Canada Health Act principles. So it is absolutely, we've achieved the single payer universal pharmacare that we wanted in terms of framing. But most importantly, we've actually shown people how we could get it done concretely in their lives with single-payer universal delivery of those two classes of medication. So those two classes of medication aren't just being delivered in any old way. They'll be delivered with a single-payer universal formula, and that's the approach we want to take with all medication. Just one follow-up.
Is in the legislation. We will see single payer in the legislation.
Absolutely. The language, that was a big victory for us, well, big victory for Canadians, that we were able to ensure that there's multiple points in the legislation that point directly to the language of single-payer, universal pharmacare, that point to the Canada Health Act, which again reinforces the public universal single-payer, and specific elements are there to achieve that. Last question.
There was very damning documents that were released yesterday. Overall, what is your response to what we saw? But also, specifically, can you please address whether you think there should be any more collaborations with infectious disease researchers at the National Microbiology Lab with China?
So first off, this was in a matter that we thought was very serious, and to get the sensitive documents that have now exposed how deep this goes, New Democrats played a very pivotal role, and will continue to search for the answers, how this happened, and how to ensure this doesn't happen in the future. What is really disturbing is that there were concerns about information and sensitive Canadian information and national security interests being undermined by a particular scientist working in that lab. That came out to be very true, and that is very disturbing. We want to know why that happened, how we can prevent that in the future, and any collaboration with any other country should undergo very strict and rigorous procedures to ensure that we're not seeing any undermining of our national security. Thank you very much. Merci. Merci. Thank you.